Hi, my name is Parvez Saeed, and I have implemented a VirusTotal plugin for Autopsy 4.2 for my final project. The features that I've implemented are scan for viruses for each file identified by Autopsy in a disk image, and label these files if a virus is detected, label each files if virus infection cannot be confirmed as well, because that's also kind of important. So that's the main features. What is VirusTotal? VirusTotal is a free public API on the internet using HTTP protocol. The public APIs are restricted, 4 requests per minute, capped daily and monthly. Capped meaning how many requests can you make per day and per month. It also requires a sign up to get the public API key. This public API or this VirusTotal verifies file hash against 50 plus well-known virus engines, returns detail as a JSON response if a virus match is found. You can find more information at this site. Autopsy plugin framework. It's pretty well designed, well documented, has well documented samples. Java plugin sample setup is a bit lengthy, but not necessarily too difficult to set up if you are familiar with Java. Python plugin was much easier to set up. It uses Jython to call Autopsy Java classes. I did not set up the Python IDE, rather use the existing Java project setup because I already went through it and spent quite a bit of time. I use that setup to see what type of methods are available in Autopsy classes. So I essentially straight use the Jython in a separate Jython API. Now Autopsy was pretty good. The documentation was pretty good, but sometimes it was difficult to follow or find when you're looking for very specific details. To give an example, adding a simple JSON Python module, the documentation that was provided didn't quite work for me. I had to figure out how to add that in, and I'll show that in a little bit in the code. My solution approach for Autopsy plugin, I chose a file ingestion module approach. There was another type available, data source module. Unfortunately, it is not suitable for processing all files. If you are looking for, let's say, only exe files or text files, data source modules are more appropriate for that. Now, file ingestion module, it gives you a method where as Autopsy is finding each files, it basically makes a call. So when that call comes in, you essentially have access to only one file at a time. The other thing, the fact that you have to remember is that ingestion module factory calls or runs 2 threads. So whatever you implement is actually multi-threaded, but it's only 2 threads. It's not multi-threaded to unknown numbers or anything like that. So I did need to consider that for throttling and writing a data file or something like that. And the throttling comes into play for public API because you can only make 4 calls per minute. There was no mechanism that I could find where from a file ingestion module I can create a report module in Autopsy. It would have been nice if I could do that, because then all the files that I found with viruses, I could have actually outputted it to a report, some sort of HTML report, and it would have been nice to kind of display it that way. I also could not find any mechanism to modify the display columns. To give an example, what I mean by that, so when you're looking at something like this, these display columns right here, I could not necessarily add another column here, which potentially would have given me a way to, say, add in how many viruses I found or how many matches I found or something like that. Also, the other part that I was mentioning before is that it would have been nice to create some sort of display column associated with these items, then would have been, I could have dumped some of those details in that display module. Continuing on this, search for VirusTotal. The VirusTotal has several APIs available. I use the one called report, which is, once again, let me show you what that is. Essentially this right here. So I use the report. I could have used scan, rescan, but I actually chose to use report because this seemed to be the easiest one to use, where I can essentially find a match or a not match. So continuing on that, if a virus match is found, I'll capture the detailed response, mark the file that's or mark files unknown to VirusTotal. As I mentioned previously, that if a file is not known to VirusTotal, then we technically don't really know if it's a virus or not. It could be a new virus, but at least it's not known to any of those 50+ viruses, which somewhat the user will have to determine whether that's infected or not. At least it gives the user the control whether he wants to do with something with those or not. Provide also some configurable way of setting up the API key, and also how to avoid the setting up the throttling mechanism, like how many seconds delay in between calls, and so on. So those are the details of how I implemented the VirusTotal. And here's some implementation specific details. I chose, just to keep it simple, a specific location for VirusTotal config file. This is the place where user will configure all of these values. Any detail that I find, I will dump it into this file. One of those things that was interesting, I originally called it virushash.txt, but my virus detection tool that I have installed in this machine went nuts, so I had to call it something different. So I ended up calling found hash. The tags that I generated, the possible tags are these. Since there was no bad hash found so far, I could not really demonstrate this, but the code is there. And of course, I found few that the virus was detected, unknown to VirusTotal, whenever it has never seen before. Now I found a number of those. VirusTotal no match, which means that VirusTotal knows about the file, but it is definitely not a virus. Found a bunch of those as well. I didn't find any of these so far, but it is possible that if a simple JSON fails, then you'll get a tag like that. The code error can be easily produced if I pick a very short time frame and use the public API. Just quickly, I can show you again here. Here are the tags that I have. Like here's unknown to VirusTotal. These are the files that VirusTotal has never seen. Here's few that VirusTotal has detected against, and I'm using a image that was given in assignment 1. I believe the one called the shard file, or the shard image. And no match, these are the ones that VirusTotal actually knows about it, but knows also that these are not viruses. Also, during the implementation, I provided a way to support a public key and private key, both. The deployment is fairly simple. The zip file that I'll provide, you just have to unzip it in the tools Python plugin location. This is generally in a Windows environment, will be this path right here. You'll have to move out the config file to C dev, add your API key, and follow the documentation for other settings, and then you should be able to run this. Now let's walk through the code real quick.